Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pauper Premier League. I'm Alex Holman. I'm here with Chris Van Meter, who just burned Brian DeMars' face off. How was that?
And my own face. I got to use the very seldom needle drop myself draw.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little fancy. Like, you ended up drawing 2 burn spells anyway, but it was the right play. It just was. I was not expecting it.
It would actually. I thought it was going to matter because he killed his rats in response to the spike. And I'm like, oh no, if he has Crypt Incursion here, you can go to 5. Thankfully, I drew the extra card, so I get the burn spell, but yeah, it could have mattered, didn't.
Yeah, so the Crypt Incursion, we were talking a little bit before we went live. That's why you brought in the Relic, not because of Wrenchmind?
A little bit of both, but for some reason I was just so fixated on Crypt Incursion that I played it rather than hold it. So because he didn't have duress on turn 1, I certainly should have kept it in my hand and just played a burn spell or whatever to counter a Wrenchmind. But I just clicked on the Relic and decided, well, let's go with that.
I mean, it didn't end up mattering. The cards you pitched wouldn't have gotten you out of, the dreaded Gary, a Gray Merchant, triple Gray Merchant draw. But, Brian's done for the night. He ends the night 1-2. Now we have Adam on the Astro Jeskai list versus Emma, and Adam's list looked really impressive going into his match with Brian. What do you think of this matchup? So
I think that Adam's Jeskai list is going to be favored. However, what's going to come down to is if Emma happens to have Mutagenic Growth at the right time to kind of blank some of the spells that Adam is hinging on enacting his game plan with, it's going to be very, very good. So like if there is an attack that Emma makes that Adam tries to use the good body of like Kor Skyfisher and she's able to kill it with a Mutagenic Growth or counter like an early Skred on like a Ninja the Deep Hours. That could be enough to turn the tide. But once we get into like turn 5, turn 6, turn 7, if Adam is not like really, really low or Emma has a ton of tempo pressure on, I think Adam's just going to run away with the game.
So yeah, and a lot of her tempo spells here, Vapor Snag and Snap, really don't look all that good against all of Adam's enter the battlefield triggers. But I'm going to ask you to do something. Oh, I won't ask you to do it because we're about to go down and see the match. So let's see what's going on down between Emma and Adam. So it looks like Adam's on the play but doesn't have the turn 1 Astrolabe. Emma, meanwhile, is going to lead on Faerie Seer or Preordain. What would you lead on here?
I think that I would lead on Faerie Seer.
Yeah.
It still kind of accomplishes what a Preordain would do in this spot, which is try and find Ninja. Preordain would put you 1 card deeper, but then you don't have the body in play.
Adam draws an Ash Barrens and goes right into Prophetic Prism. So, if Emma got to the Ninja, she is set up to start drawing extra cards.
Now, even if she doesn't get to a Ninja here, she does have this Bonesplitter that she can put on the Faerie Seer, and Adam doesn't really have any way to interact with it right now, so he's hoping on either Ponder, trying to find a Skred, or this Skyfisher sticking, and because it's a Prism and not an Astrolabe, the Skyfisher isn't going to be very mana efficient, so we may see some Vapor Snags and Snaps on that Skyfisher.
So you would mention if Emma can get that kind of strong... Oh, well, there's the Astrolabe. But you would mention Emma needs to kind of get this strong tempo draw. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by tempo in this matchup?
So in this matchup, tempo is going to mean doing more things than your opponent, which is going to be difficult considering that the Jeskai deck is based around replaying 1-mana spells. But this particular draw that is lined up is going to do just that. She's going to be able to bounce this. She'll have Spellstutter Sprite to counter it when it tries to come back down, or to protect her Seer from a Skred. And Adam just doesn't really have anything going on. This is just an instance of the Jeskai deck cycling, which is really what it wants to do a lot of the times. But the mono blue deck is able to put on some pressure and could potentially steal this game.
So it looks like Emma's going with the Faerie Seer to set up her draw. Now, do you think she's going to snap here?
Yeah. I certainly would snap rather than Vapor Snag, just because you want to be able to Spellstutter Sprite. I don't think that there's any 3-mana spell that would be relevant of having the extra body. So I might have even just preordained rather than play the Faerie Seer, since it does draw you a card deeper. Wow, so it's like she's not going to snap and just pass the turn.
She might be placing a higher emphasis on, getting rid of the Astrolabe, or was there any merit to just, straight up attacking your Faerie Seer into the Skyfisher?
I don't think so. Trading here is not what the deck is set up to do. Like, you're not going to beat the Mulldrifter Ephemerate deck by trying to trade your creatures early on. You want to put pressure, develop your board, and make your opponent stumble.
Looks like Adam pondered into Archaeomancers, now cycling Ash Barrens for a Snow-Covered Mountain, which goes very nicely with that Skred in hand. Adam looks like he's set up really well. He's getting that Glint Hawk, or not. Yep, now Emma looks like she's about to fire off that Spellstutter Sprite on Glint Hawk. Do you think Emma was too patient?
I think she might have been, but there's a chance that we can turn this around. I think if you snap the Skyfisher into spriting the Glint Hawk, then you actually have snag on your own Spellstutter Sprite if you want to be able to counter something else. But it looks like she's just going to let it resolve and not do anything.
So Emma has much more experience in Modern. Is there a Modern deck like this that she might be patterning her lines of play after?
So Infect kind of comes to mind, since it's just like an aggressive-ish deck. But the problem is that deck tends to turn the corner and end the game in like 2 turns, as opposed to this type of deck that's going to draw it out for 5 or 6 turns, building incremental advantage.
Well, Emma drew the Mutagenic Growth, so she's swinging. She is going for the fences, and it looks like Adam thought about blocking, but looks like he's lining up 2 blocks. No? Adam doing the blocking shuffle.
He has to be worried of Mutagenic Growth here, so he's trying to figure out what is the best way to block to not get completely blown out by Mutagenic Growth. So like there's the possibility, since he does have that Skred in hand and a lot more cantrips, he may even just put both of them on the Bonesplitter Faerie Seer, since blocking only one creature on either one of these just isn't a very good proposition in the face of Mutagenic Growth. So I think that I would put both of them on one, or just nothing on anything.
Yeah.
You could also just put them both on the Seer that doesn't have Bonesplitter. That seems like a good block too.
What would you do? Would you just double block the 1/1?
I mean, maybe. Then again, Mutagenic Growth plus a bounce spell kind of puts him in a bad spot. It's not a ton of damage, so he may even just take it and hope to try and race.
I mean, it looks like he's set up very well, because, he could, next turn, for example, Skred, Archaeomancer back the Skred if he really wanted to. Looks like he's still thinking about this. Looks like he's lined up the 2/3, the Skyfisher against the Faerie with the Bonesplitter, and the Glint Hawk against the 1/1.
This is actually pretty good. It makes it so that he's able to trade on one and lose his creature on the other, but pushes Emma in a spot where she has to spend the mana to equip, and she did miss a land drop last turn.
Yep. Although she looks like she's casting Preordain, digging for the land drop, and she still has Spellstutter up. So, and you know what? If Adam goes for the Astrolabe, it doesn't matter if he does end up Skredding one of the fairies, because it will still counter on the enter the battlefield trigger from
the other
Spellstutter Sprite. Yeah. So yeah, that looks like what might. No, Emma lets it resolve.
I'm curious what she's waiting to use this Spellstutter Sprite on.
I mean,
you might see. I think this would be the perfect spot for it.
Yeah, unless she's playing around the Counterspell, because Adam did leave up blue. But I think, would you play around Counterspell here?
I don't know if she can afford to, but the way she's been playing this game makes me think that she's just going to play around everything. So with that in mind, I'm not surprised.
But you know what's interesting here? If Emma goes to equip, she has Spellstutter Sprite now for the Skred. So, she's not in a totally terrible position. It's not great, but it's...
So she's like stymied on mana here,
yeah.
And Adam is just continuing to build his board, make his land drops, cycle through his deck with these Astrolabes. He still has 5 cards in hand. One of them is a Mulldrifter.
Looks like it's going to resolve.
And an Archaeomancer.
That Mulldrifter is going to resolve.
This is going to be tough.
What does Mulldrifter get Adam? It gets him... So Adam's hand looks stacked because he has 2 counterspells now. He's drawn the 3rd Astrolabe. He has Archaeomancer to get back whatever he wants in his graveyard. Emma looks like she has a little bit of an uphill battle. What does Emma need to draw here to get? What does Emma need to draw here to get back in this game?
Well, at this point, it's going to be tough. I think it involves, getting in some shots with Ninja the Deep Hours, utilizing Mutagenic Growth as a removal spell or as a counterspell to stop things from happening. But Adam has 2 counterspells, an Archaeomancer, a bunch more land. Both of his creatures are bigger than Emma's creatures. She's really stuck on mana to move the Bonesplitter around. So I think that, not being aggressive early on and kind of misassessing what her role is in this match, as she needs to be the aggressor since Adam's long game is going to be way better than hers, that we're running into this trap where she's just too far behind at this point.
What is it what's the line? Misassignment of role equals game loss?
Usually.
So this Astro Jeskai deck is really making the rounds on Pauper, and the various 3 and 4 and sometimes even 5 color Arcum's Astrolabe decks are kind of, I don't want to say they're dominating the format, but they're doing very well. They're omnipresent. What's your take on this kind of new pocket of decks? What's your take on them in the format?
So I have a unique opinion on it, whereas most people think that Astrolabe is the card that is oppressive or homogenizing everything. But I think that the problem is Kor Skyfisher. So I really like Astrolabe. I think it's a cool card. I think that it slots it into these Tron decks, and we're seeing Marasatron see play again like it was before. But it's the Kor Skyfisher that's creating these unhealthy deck bases. I already thought that Skyfisher has been one of the best cards in Pauper ever since I started playing. Mm-hmm. I've felt, and now just adding Astrolabe to the mix just kind of creates these Jeskai or white-based value decks that I think just end up being too good and force people to play these fringe strategies. I've been playing a lot of Elves. Mm-hmm. I've been playing a lot of Burn because I think that those are 2 of the decks that prey on these decks that want to spend time cycling in the early game, and you can either go under them or go way over them with them.
So you're not the only person, because I know Brian Koval, who's also a member of this league, feels similarly. Like Kor Skyfisher is one of the, it's one of those pinch point cards. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, you look at Kor Skyfisher, it's this 2/3 body with a small drawback. Granted, it's not a drawback with Arcum's Astrolabe, but does the package create a problem that might need to be addressed at some point, or is it this situation where next person down on the bench, there's Countless Gears Renegade, or Aviary Mechanic. That's the 2-drop from Kaladesh block. That is a 2/2 that does the same thing. Is it that extra point of toughness? Is it the flying? What about Kor Skyfisher makes it sing, so to speak?
That it's a 2/3 flyer. If it was, even if it was just a 2/2, I don't think that it would be a big problem. But when you have this Skyfisher Glint Hawk cycling early game that allows you to kind of ramp your gameplay up, not only is it homogenized, but it like I said, I think it forces the rest of the format into 2 spots where you're either Elves and Troning to go over the top, or you're Burn and Stomping to go underneath them. I think that I actually don't think that anything should be banned. I just think that there should be new commons printed like we had with Modern Horizons, or things downshifted. I would rather put more cards into the pool to to give you other options to go with your Astrolabe than just get rid of something.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anything right now warrants a ban. I think that, again, we're still only a few weeks into what this metagame is, and, we are now in the time where Pauper is this officially sanctioned format, and if you follow Commander or Modern, you know that when formats get officially sanctioned or officially recognized, they start making cards for them. So I fully expect to see some pushed cards down the line in, that next set, Throne of Eldraine and whatever comes next.
Yeah, I think that would be real nice to see. What it is doing to the format, though, kind of reminds me of what Birthing Pod was like, where you have, if you look at the spectrum of decks, you have, under, over, and then all this gobbledygook in the middle. Normally, there's a bunch of decks in the middle kind of jockeying for position, where you have mid-range decks that try to out-mid-range each other or go underneath each other. But what Birthing Pod did is it was just like, this is just the best mid-range strategy against all of the other mid-range strategies. So you couldn't really play anything else in the middle. Yeah, so you were forced to either be that, go over, or go under, which is kind of what Astrolabe's doing to Pauper.
So Adam is playing this very patiently. He's just attacking with his Archaeomancer because all of Emma's creatures have 1 toughness. Emma's managed to muster a modest board of 3 fairies, but Emma just Vapor Snagged her own Faerie Seer. I'm guessing she's trying to dig deeper, but that Adam just has so much value on the board, so much in hand. I don't know what he can do. I don't know what Emma can do, rather.
Yeah, this is not looking very good. And once we get to the point where Adam finds an Ephemerate to start looping with that Archaeomancer, we're going to be in a bad spot.
Yeah. So you had mentioned Birthing Pod. Michael Petchek of the recently ended or recently on hiatus Pauper podcast Color Commentary, when we were talking about Astrolabe, said, ask anyone who's played a lot of Legacy about the 4-color piles powered by Deathrite Shaman. He's kind of compared Arcum's Astrolabe and that mana fixing ability to that. I don't know how much Legacy you play, but what do you think about that?
Yes, it's certainly very similar.
Another counterspell for Delver.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
In the same vein, though, like I would attribute Kor Skyfisher as like Leopold, right? So if we're looking at if we're looking at Deathrite Shaman and Astrolabe is like the glue that's like holding these multicolored decks together, like the payoff for being that was Leopold. Like you could use Deathrite Shaman to cast Leopold in your decks, and that's the same thing with Skyfisher, where it's like the payoff for having this cantrip mana fixer is you get this insane body that also draws you another card.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And you're right, it's this body that's very hard to attack in the format. The average creature size for aggressive creatures is 2/2. That extra point of toughness does a lot of work. Yeah, and Emma saw the writing on the wall there. Too many Skyfishers, too much toughness. And what do you think Emma brings in here?
So let's see. It looks like Emma has, pull up her list. So she has 2 Shinobis, a Negate, 2 Annuls, an Echoing Truth, 2 Hydroblasts, a Thief, Relic, and Sunken City. So I kind of like Sunken City, as you want to be in this spot where your 1/1s are able to attack into the 2/2s.
But how bad is it that it grows Trinket Mage, Archaeomancer, Mulldrifter?
A non-zero amount of bad. It could just be that those are the things that she needs to focus the counterspells on. I think that in particular with this match, what Emma is going to want to do is establish one of these creatures that can snowball by itself. So something like Mistblade Shinobi, Moonblade Shinobi, Jhessian Thief to go along with the ninjas. Like those are the type of permanents that she needs to get down, and then just kind of protect, very similar to like a protect the queen strategy, right? Where you would just play like your Baneslayer Angel and you just protect Baneslayer Angel and you don't lose. In this instance, like you want to get your card advantage engine down and then utilize all these other pieces to just keep it alive and keep the way clear so you can keep hitting and drawing more cards to keep up with the engine of the Jeskai deck. Would you bring in Annul? That's the counter target artifact or enchantment. See, that's another one of the problems that I have with this Skyfisher Astrolabe interaction and these decks in general. Is just like, unless you're getting something else from attacking it, it's not worth doing it. So like as a burn player, I will bring in smash the smithereens because it's just Lava Spike plus Shatter. But for this, like, what does countering an Astrolabe do?
Yeah, I mean, the best case scenario with countering Astrolabe is it strains Glint Hawk. That's kind of the best case scenario. And even then, it's a pure tempo play, like you were talking about before. It stops them from advancing their board position for maybe a turn, maybe two. But it looks like Emma's on the play. She brought in Relic of Progenitus. That's an interesting one. She must be really worried about the Ephemerate long game.
Yeah, so like Relic is good against Archaeomancer. But I don't think that's similar to why I wouldn't bring in Annul here. I don't think that is the battle that she wants to fight here with this deck. It is a mono blue deck, but it's not like a Whispers of the Muse capsize mono blue deck. Like you're trying to attack and kill your opponent before they can go over the top of you.
So it looks like Emma took a mulligan to 6 and found a hand she liked. Adam looks like he's going to 5. But that 5 includes 2 islands, Arcum's Astrolabe, Glint Hawk, and Dispel. So
he gets to draw 2 cards and make a 2/2.
Yeah, it seems pretty good on a mulligan to 5. He's going to unmulligan very quickly. Emma leads on Ponder.
One of the other issues that I have with Astrolabe is I think that the snow mechanic is lazy.
You do some work with game design for Card Kingdom with their battle decks, right? Yeah,
so mine is more so similar to what like Gavin does, where like I'm creating things out of existing products. It's like we can't make our own Magic cards, so I just make things with existing Magic cards. But like I like to think of myself as an amateur game designer, as most people that play Magic. But like just the drawback for Astrolabe needing a snow mana, like does nothing. Like you can play these snow lands, or it feels really stapled on and lazy, and
it kind of just this thing that exists to make other cards work. Is that what you're saying? I yes. Cut out for a second there. Okay. Well, it looks like Adam didn't go for he didn't play into Spellstutter Sprite with the Glint Hawk. But now he's going Ponder. And it looks like he's trying to force on his hand here.
Yeah. So it looks like Emma has is that a Deprive?
Deprive, Spellstutter Sprite, Counterspell, and Relic. And I think she's letting the Ponder resolve. Because I think Adam has to try. What do you think? Does he go for the Glint Hawk here, or does he play into Spellstutter Sprite?
I think he goes for the Glint Hawk here. Just to try it and be able to replay this. And if it does get countered by anything other than Spellstutter Sprite, we have a Dispel. So that seemed to work very well in Adam's favor. And if he's able to draw into a land, he has this Evoke Mulldrifter Ephemerate play that he can make, which could be pretty insane. Welcome back. Maybe.
Yeah, my internet is cut out for a second.
That's all right. So yeah,
it does not look. She went for the Counterspell and got.
She did. She went for the Counterspell and got the spell. Which I'm surprised that she wouldn't just use the Spellstutter Sprite. Like there aren't infinite awesome targets to use this Spellstutter Sprite on. So I am surprised that she went with the Counterspell over the Spellstutter Sprite. And now here we have, Adam's deck is just kind of running full speed with its different engines. Are we going to see a Spellstutter Sprite here on the Skyfisher? No, we're going to see Deprive instead. I wonder why she's just not using the Spellstutter Sprite. She did the same thing in the first game. She was very reluctant to use the Spellstutter Sprites. Faerie Miscreant is going to draw her card. She can't really attack because Glint Hawk is a 2/2 and her side is full of 1/1s. This would be a good spot for a Bonesplitter. So it looks like Adam is just going to hard cast Mulldrifter. He's not going to try for the Evoke Ephemerate play. So Spellstutter Sprite is not going to counter Mulldrifter. It does have a converted mana cost of 5.
Yeah, it looks like Emma, just with the Spellstutter Sprites, has been not snapping them off early enough and just trying to extract maximum value instead of getting any value. What about that?
Yeah, I think that's, again, it continues on this narrative of how she's been playing this match for the long game, which I think that the deck is not set up to fight the Mulldrifter, Kor Skyfisher, Astrolabe deck in the long game, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, historically, the Kor Skyfisher decks have been very good against Delver decks just because of that 2/3 body, and this is even better. But, a Spellstutter Sprite now will counter a Mulldrifter. There are a lot of 1/1s.
Yeah, there we go. I would like to see that.
I have seen it, and it is such a blowout when you're on the receiving end of it. It's painful. It's just absolutely painful.
Also, I'm surprised. I'm actually a little surprised that she didn't play the Relic of Progenitus. At this point, Adam's. It's not like Adam is just not going to cast spells because you're holding up one card in your hand, and at the very least, they can cantrip on the end step to try and get some action for the following turn.
I'm actually more surprised Adam cast the Preordain this turn when he has a Seeker of the Way on the board for next turn.
Yeah, well, he does have another Preordain, and at this point, his deck is constructed in a way that most cards just do exactly what it is he wants to do at this state of the game. So even just casting a Preordain now still sets up Seeker being good the following turn.
That Delver of Secret flips and revealed what? Preordain. Okay, so Emma's going to Preordain. That Delver normally would look like it would trade with something, except Adam did happen to draw the red elemental the Pyroblast. Now that all those are legal, I'm going to get them confused all the time. Draws the Pyroblast, which is actually someone said the other day that if you have Seeker of the Way in your deck, you should just, if you have any combination of red elemental blast and Pyroblast in your sideboard, it should be the 4-1 split as opposed to a 3-2 split, because Pyroblast can target anything and pump the Seeker. That's
one of the reason for using red elemental blast over Pyroblast, for using it the other way around. That started back when Treasure Cruise was legal, so that you could just cast spells to fill your graveyard to fuel your Treasure Cruise.
Treasure Cruise was another broken Magic card. Is that a Negate? It looks like Emma drew a Negate, but this looks like it's going to be another uphill climb. Life totals haven't changed. Emma has the more built out board, but Adam is just going to accrue value, it looks like.
Yeah, I also really dislike Negate against this Jeskai deck. Weirdly enough, it's always going to be trading down unless you're hitting a counterspell with it. All of these spells that you would counter are just 1 mana, a few of them are 2 manas. I think that something like Spell Pierce early on to try and build some tempo would be better, or even just a flat out hard counter that hits the creatures as well. I think that Negate is not very good against the Jeskai deck.
So you've talked a lot about the Jeskai deck and Astrolabe and how it really kind of can cycle through. It's very mana efficient. What do you think? Just hypothetically, what would you prefer to have? Would you prefer to have a Remove Soul, which is cheaper, or an Exclude, which replaces itself against this deck?
Against the Jeskai deck?
Yeah. Just abstract from a deck that can run both.
I think that Exclude would end up being better, just because you may not hit the first Glint Hawk or Kor Skyfisher, but once you get into a spot where you handle their board and then they start the top deck where they're chaining their spells, just breaking it with something that cantrips could be very powerful. So
Adam evoked Mulldrifter, put Ephemerate on the stack. If Emma negates this, it's not going to really matter because Adam has the Pyroblast backup thanks to his Arcum's Astrolabe and Prophetic Prism. I mean, I think Emma has to snap this off, but
yeah,
she doesn't. She's either patient or doesn't think she wants to save it for a counter war, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in a spot here where she's up a creek with no paddle, But we're going to keep playing on and be valiant. But speaking of like messed up cards, Ephemerate is just insane, right? Like,
Adam just drew Electrickery.
Really?
Adam drew Electrickery. I don't know if he can cast it this turn with Pyroblast backup, but that is what many people call a bloodbath waiting to happen. Because
fortunately, he can wait.
Yes.
Because he doesn't really need to. But to be honest, with that Ephemerate resolving, I if I was Adam, I would put 0% that Emma was on the
counterspell. Ephemerate is this really, I think it's a really cool card. But it does exert this really weird pressure with cards like Archaeomancer and Mnemonic Wall, where you can target it on the front half, get whatever you want back. And then with the rebound, you can get Ephemerate back and do it all over again. And, repetitive game states tend to be things that you don't want. And that Ephemerate is one of those in a bottle.
Yes. And it I get that it's to facilitate the blue-white flicker theme that they had in Modern Horizons. But I would have much rather had seen this card at Uncommon so that we did not have it in Pauper. It's already... frustrating is not the right word, but just unfun enough to play against these Ghostly Flicker style decks. But Ephemerate is just so much more mana efficient and then just slots into these aggressive style decks that we've seen like this.
So you've mentioned those Ghostly Flicker lock decks. I think the one that Joseph Arani ran last week, the Familiars deck, is really cool. And
it's merciful. It actually kills you. Denizen kills you. You don't have to sit there and wait forever.
So I think what you're talking about are the Stonehorn Dignitary decks?
Yes. Those are a crime against humanity.
Emma does us a solid and concedes the game in the light of Electrickery and overwhelming value. So it looks like next round we are going to have you versus Emma. How do you feel about that matchup? You're on burn.
Yeah, so Spellstutter Sprite is a very good card. Mutagenic Growth can protect the ninja, but is very, very poor with all of her X1s, since it doesn't really counter any of my burn. And then out of the sideboard, she does only have 2 Hydroblasts. So that is certainly going to be in my favor, since I have a full 4 Pyroblasts in my sideboard. So I think that I'm going to be pretty far ahead on the play, and it's probably close to even on the draw.
Okay, well, we'll find out soon enough in the round 5 of this week of the Pauper Premier League. We'll be back in a few minutes after this word from our sponsors.